Imagine this. An empire that fought wars for nearly 6 centuries without pause, feeding armies, launching campaigns, crossing continents. But there's a problem. Wars like that are supposed to bankrupt a state. This one didn't. So how? Because the Ottoman Empire didn't just fight wars. It found a way to finance them sustainably. Through countless conquests of strategically critical regions, it built a system where money, power, and geography became one. Welcome to a story where nothing is ever as simple as it looks. The Ottoman Empire existed from around 1299 to 1922, lasting over 6 centuries, longer than most empires people usually think of today. But longevity isn't the most interesting part. The real mystery is this: how did an empire that fought almost constantly not collapse under financial pressure? In the West, empires are often imagined to fall because they lose battles. But nations don't go bankrupt because of battles. They collapse because of budgets, leadership, and logistics. The Ottomans understood this early. Instead of building a conventional European-style system of taxation and standing armies, they designed something far more efficient, a structure where war could finance itself. But before we get there, we need to understand what the Ottomans actually were, because for many, the empire is just a vague image: turbans, sultans, domes, and janissaries. But behind those images was a system that ran for centuries. The Ottomans began as a small frontier principality in northwestern Anatolia, led by Osman I, with only a few thousand warriors, and a talent for being in the right place at the right time. They expanded as the Byzantine Empire weakened and Mongol influence faded. Their early victories weren't just military successes. They were financial windfalls, because every conquest meant land, resources, crops, taxes, and new populations to generate revenue. This is the first key to understanding the Ottoman system. From the very beginning, war wasn't a cost. It was an income stream. By 1326, with the capture of Bursa, and by the 1350s, with expansion into Europe, the Ottomans were no longer a frontier tribe. They were becoming a power that controlled the trade routes between Europe and Asia. In medieval terms, that's like controlling the arteries of the global economy. From Venice to Persia, Cairo to Budapest, Baghdad to Istanbul, trade passed through Ottoman lands, and every movement was taxed. War requires three things: food, metal, and men. The Ottomans didn't necessarily have more of these than their rivals, but they had something more important: cash flow. Their empire sat at the crossroads of the pre-modern world. Silk, spices, carpets, horses, weapons, timber, sugar, copper, everything moved through their territory, and everything was taxed. But revenue alone doesn't explain centuries of warfare. What made the Ottomans different was structural design. They turned their army into a self-financing institution. This is where one of the most important and misunderstood systems comes in: the timur system. In the Ottoman world, war was quite literally self-funded. When a new region was conquered, it wasn't immediately centralized. Instead, it was distributed as timur tax districts assigned to soldiers. This meant something remarkable. When the empire expanded, its payroll didn't grow. In some cases, it actually shrank, because new land brought new revenue to fund new soldiers. In modern states, one of the biggest expenses is military salaries. The Ottomans solved this differently. A timur was a tax district. Cavalry soldiers, known as sipahis, were granted the right to collect taxes from a specific region. In return, they had to equip themselves, maintain their horses, and be ready for war. No salary. The soldier funded himself. It was an elegant system. The state reduced its expenses. The soldier became invested in. Stability because stable villages meant stable income, and the empire could mobilize quickly without draining its treasury. While European kings relied on expensive knights or mercenaries, Ottoman soldiers had income, even in peacetime. War didn't strain the system, it activated it. But this wasn't the only innovation. The Ottomans also developed a powerful infantry system, the Janissaries. These elite soldiers were created through the Devshirme system, recruited from Christian populations in the Balkans, trained, converted, and molded into a professional force loyal only to the state. Ethically, it was harsh and controversial, but financially, it was unique. The state avoided the full lifetime cost of raising soldiers from birth. Instead, it acquired trained manpower with lower long-term expense. Once in service, Janissaries were paid and housed, but in their early centuries, they were restricted from marrying or engaging in trade, ensuring loyalty and discipline. Together, the Timur system and the Janissaries created a military structure that was both efficient and sustainable. And then came the most powerful mechanism of all, war paying for war. Every conquest meant new taxes, new trade routes, new ports, and new income streams. While many European states returned from warfare, the Ottomans often returned richer. They controlled key choke points, the Bosporus, the Dardanelles, the Eastern Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and major land trade routes. This gave them leverage over global commerce. They also used state monopolies on goods like salt, tobacco, and coffee, ensuring steady, predictable revenue. And they relied on tributary states such as Crimea and Wallachia, which paid for autonomy instead of being directly governed. For centuries, this system worked. The Ottomans avoided large-scale borrowing and maintained financial independence, but not forever. By the 17th century, the world began to change. Europe industrialized. Trade shifted to the oceans. Ottoman land routes lost importance. The Timur system weakened. The Janissaries gained power and resisted reform. And modern armies required something the empire had long avoided: cash. So the Ottomans turned to borrowing. In the 19th century, they took high-interest loans from European banks. Debt grew, payments failed, and in 1881, control over Ottoman finances was handed to an international commission dominated by European powers. It was the end of centuries of financial independence, and the beginning of the end, because in the end, empires don't fall on the battlefield, they fall on the balance sheet. The Ottomans survived for 6 centuries because they turned war into revenue. But when that system broke, collapse became inevitable. Their real secret wasn't just taxation, it was design. A system where war, economy, and governance fed into each other. For centuries, that system made them unstoppable. But even that wasn't enough to last forever.